microbladed eyebrows or tattooed eyebrows, nano brows. More on that later. You could clearly see that one side has the makeup, the other one does not. The one that does not has that kind of a tattoo that's turned a little more of a cool tone color. I applied some hair strokes using Hairstroke Technique with some pomade and warmed that up a little bit. I believe the hair strokes is the best when you have an older brow tattoo. You know, this whole video is going to be all about tattoo, my personal experience, and what I do to keep my tattoo up. So you're definitely going to stick around or want to stick around for this video. Share this with anyone that you know are thinking about getting a tattoo, did get it, not sure how to take care of it. So yeah, this is going to be all about that. I'm going to show you some more models, beautifully done brow tattoo, but I want you to see what to look out for. And I believe that's important because I don't live in your area. I don't know who to direct you to. So I believe this is going to help you a little bit, hopefully. Just so you know, I will try to put some, give you some information as to who you can, what artists you can seek out for in the LA area. I could only refer you to people that I trust. So this video is why I made this video, is so that you can make the best decision, right? With just looking at what I want you guys to look at. That's why I wanted to make this video. That's why I want you to stick around. But before we do all that, I want you to take a look at this model and how I apply these hair strokes and why I think hair strokes is important. So the brows are a little bit on the cooler side now, right? So you want to warm it up. I'm going to be actually mixing the dip brow pomades. One's obviously warmer than the other. And I'm using a little bit of hydrating oil because it can get a little dry. A couple of drops overnight, it will loosen that up. If you forget to do that, just do a few hours before you use the product. Just a tiny bit. A little goes a long way, and it's a hydrating oil. I use it for my cuticles, my face, anywhere that's dry, and my cuticles is always dry. So that is why it's a hydrating oil. It dries to a matte, so it doesn't stay oily, if you're wondering about that. So I did this so that way you can see the tones of the color. You can clearly see that that one shade is much warmer than the other. She can use one or the other, but by mixing the two, it really works well with her tattoo ink, her old ink, that is. And so, I mean, if you're just doing this on your eyebrows without any ink, you can just do one or the other. But, and you could also just, you know, mix it yourself. You don't need to just go, oh, I got to use one color, even though I don't have a brow tattoo. That's why I love dip brow, and it's forgiving, it's creamy, so you can work with it. It doesn't dry up very fast, so there's time to apply the color and do those pretty hair strokes. Did you notice that the brush is going side by side? I'm always mentioning this because I want to make sure that you keep the brush sharp. So by just side by side, it keeps the hairs from flaring out. Also, you start at the middle because the first application is always your heaviest application. So that way you can kind of feel how to apply, how much pressure to apply. The longest part is obviously over here, up in the down, facing down, and whatever's left on the brush, that's when you go towards the front. The pressure starts getting lighter and lighter and lighter. It's almost like you're just kind of scratching really quickly. So that way the lines get thinner and thinner. The front, you don't want it too apparent. The reason why I do hair strokes on tattooed eyebrows is that it looks more natural, okay? And when you have an ink like this, where it's spread out a little bit, it does look more like a powdery tattoo, more not solid, but just powdery, and you want to see those hair strokes that you may have once had when you had it microbladed. This is a great way to do that. And hair stroke is something that can get a little more advanced feeling, but if you practice at it, especially if you practice with your hand, like I said, it's creamy, it's forgiving, it's easy to use, it doesn't dry up that fast. So start practicing, draw lines on your hand, you know, before you want to commit maybe to your eyebrows. But it's a lot easier than it looks. So, and when you're using products like this, it can get a little bit messy, which is why I always say to use a highlighter stick and the brush. The brush will really just help it to look clean and crisp, like you're seeing here. Underneath the eyebrows, it looks so professionally done, and this brush will do it. Excuse me, I for some reason can't speak again. But anyway, so those are the really main products that I think you should try out or use if you haven't already. So now you're going to see this before and after. You could clearly see the before and after, right? the one that has just no ink. Now she's got beautiful shape. It's done well. And again, I'm just going to quickly go into, or not quickly, stick with me. That's what I wanted to say. Stick with me, because now we're going to really talk about um, the brow shapes, what to look out for if you're going to get this done. And so, yeah, but again, just it's a beautiful look, and try to get in the habit of using or doing hair strokes if you have a brow tattoo, because you want some of that to come through the ink. That is, you don't want it to be solid, right? You don't want to put dip brow just in it like you would put powder on and just put it all over. Then it would just look too like a Sharpie. You don't want to do that either, which is why hair strokes is very important if you have a tattoo, or if you just want a little bit of hair strokes and you don't have a tattoo. So here we have me. Just so you know, I was at the tail end of a vacation, so sunscreen had it all. I still get dark. But this is a really good lighting where I wanted you to see my tattoo. I haven't had it touched up, like I said, I think 7 years ago. I don't want you to feel like you always have to run in and touch up any area that you see a little gap or holes here and there. Like I said, I've had mine done 15 years ago with just kind of your basic tattoo style, no microblading or anything like that. But thankfully mine's kind of dissipated. And then I've just had it touched up a little bit. And here, I want you to look at some of the gaps. I don't mind that. I think it looks a little bit more natural. If I went and filled just in those little holes or had it redone, it would look too solid, and you're muddying the waters. So the tattoo ink just really starts changing the color. That is, your skin texture will be changing. It already did with that, but just keep that in mind. Don't feel like you got to run in and touch it up. Beautiful, beautiful application here, right? I think this one was done with the nano machine. Nano is microblading, but it's with the machine. Microblading is manually done, hair strokes with the hand and that little tool. This one is with the machine. I think it is, because the hair strokes is so perfect. It's not going to look like this once it's healed up, just so you know. It's beautifully done, right? But all the Instagram pictures, it's just beautifully photographed, right? And as it should be. This is their portfolio, which is why it's important. But just know that it's not going to look perfect like this, but this is the kind of artist you want to look for, right? And it's going to shrink a little. It's not going to be this full, which is good. I'll get more into that later. But it's well executed, perfectly done. But just know that those little tiny little hairlines that you see down below, you're not going to see it once it's healed up. Here, the color is a little off as far as the filter, but this one's actually done pretty well. But again, it's going to be a lot thinner than the before. And I like this. I think this is going to fade really well. And again, I just want you to know that the hair strokes, as you can see the after, it's not going to look perfectly like this. When it's healed up, the lines aren't going to be all there. Okay, which is why you need a second session. There's always 2 sessions, around 6 to 8 weeks in between that, just so you know. But it's well done, and look out for an artist like this, because the shape is sometimes more important, obviously, right? Because you got to wear that around. And so the execution is just as important, but shape is what I'm really good at. And that's why I'm saying look out for an artist like this, where the brow shape wasn't too different. Here's another really good one. Now, the brows aren't going to be filled in on our own with more hair in that lower area. See that dip where it just looks like this? Well, it's nicely filled in. And now she may, I think she's going to go back to her second session. I think this one's the first one. That area where she doesn't have hair and the before, it's going to fade much faster, obviously, because she doesn't have hair there, right? So she may have to get that more filled in. But the hair stroke's beautifully done. Again, this is the kind of artist you want to look for, because the shape is so pretty. Now, if she, the before, should she have gotten it done? Maybe not, but this one is well done, so it's going to fade away beautifully. Again, this is a first session. The photographs are always beautifully done. Just know that this brow is going to be a little bit on the thinner side once it heals up. This one, very important, right? She clearly is dealing with some sort of alopecia. She may have more hair growing back in the future, but I don't think so. Well done. The middle part of the after is definitely going to need to go back and fill more in. Now, I probably wouldn't go this full, this wide, even though if I was just applying brown makeup, I would go this full, because the ink does spread. like the first video, the first model I showed you where I applied the hair strokes, her tattoo ink, I'm sure, was a little bit thinner. It spreads, you guys. Your ink will move around a little bit as time goes on. So that's why I always encourage people to look out for just thinner look. A thinner, ask for it to be a little bit thinner. I'm showing this because I probably would not have suggested her to get hers done. She's got actually a pretty good amount of brow, and if before, and if she properly had a shape, it would look thicker if she got rid of some of the hairs that she doesn't need, because it just looks unshapely, right? Unkept. But the after, well done. I think the artist did a pretty good job, but the hair strokes, you probably, I don't know. These hair strokes they were all done very, very closely. So in time, it'll spread out. It's not going to look like hair strokes. It's going to look more powdery. Again, this one, I probably would not have suggested her to get hers done. If you have this kind of eyebrow and you're thinking about it, don't. Because you don't need it, right? You don't need it right now. You have beautiful before eyebrows. You don't need, I know that people get it done because they want it to look like they have makeup on and get up and look like it's perfectly done. It doesn't stay that way that long. Just remember that. It's ink going in the skin. It's an imprint. So it's not going to stay beautifully like you think it's going to look in your head. So I wouldn't suggest doing that. I wanted to show this eyebrow because she should probably have gotten it removed. But you know what? Not every tattoo ink is removed 100%, but they're doing a pretty good job nowadays in removing a lot of that old ink. The shape, I'm not crazy about this kind of shape. The person that did her brows before. So you don't want it so high up and rounded, even though her natural contour is that, because you could clearly see you can only work with the shape. So the person that did the cover-up did a pretty good job. She had to go with what she already had, right? So I suggest removing it, but if you can't, get it done a little bit fuller. It was obviously a little too thin in this case. But yeah, it was just well executed. You could see that the person that did this, the artist, went in right inside beautifully, and then just at the edges, just you could see the hair stroke. This one's a beautiful cover up where the shape is so much prettier. Now, the artist that did this cover up just went along with what she already had to, right? And she did a beautiful job. I wish I knew who did this, but this is the kind of after the artist that you want to seek out for. If you have a cover up and you're looking at some artists in your area, this is the artist that you want to look for. The shape is pretty, you know, and the hair strokes you can see, but again, you're not going to see it that much, especially when you have an older background tattoo. Anytime you get something freshly done, you see it nicely. Now, I don't know if this is a tattoo or a dye, but I've seen brow tattoos like this. Obviously, try to avoid getting it done like this. If you see an artist on Instagram or anywhere else and you're like, wow, I want that, try not to do that, because what ultimately happens is it gets thicker than this. The color just heals not the kind that you want. The shape is beautifully done, right? Beautiful. But when it fades away, and I'm going to get more into this in just a minute after I talk about this eyebrow, is that the arch is perfectly where it should be. It's symmetrical. It's so even, beautifully even. But you know, your brows aren't going to stay even over time, unfortunately. But try to avoid getting it done solid. It's not good for you in the future, in the long run. Trust me when I tell you that. And I've seen a lot of brow tattoos where it's just solid, right? And it's healed up, meaning after it's solid. And it just doesn't look good. And most of these people, not all, I guess, regret that. So, and it takes a lot of work in trying to get rid of that. And that's why I wanted you to see the one that was that thin high arch, because it's very difficult to cover up that as time goes on. So keep that in mind and be very careful when you look out for an artist. But I rarely see this anymore. So I'm going to go over a few very important things. Definitely save this, share this if you can, but and write notes down if you need to. But these are very important things that I want you to know. Just try to get your brows done thinner. So if you see something in the magazines or somewhere where you're going to your artist and say, I want my brows tattooed like this, and they just do it without advising you, that's not the person you want to go to. Because a lot of times what we see in the media or in photographs, it may not be for you, right? Your brow bone is different from maybe this client. And I say the bone here, your facial structure. Everything has something to do with, your face has to do with how well your brows will turn out. As you age, your face will change. Your brow bone will move. Trust me, it will. No matter how, if you get Botox or fillers, that will help, but ultimately nature will take its course. When you get something imprinted in your skin, semi-permanent or permanent, no such thing as semi if they go in too deep. But you know, that's why you got to be careful who you go to, because they could go in too deep in the skin, which is why it turns more of a cool purplish blue tone. Anything on the cool side, that's because they went in too deep with their machine or their tool. If it turns more of a bluish, not blue, if it turns more of like a warm tone, orangey, red, maybe the ink is not good quality. But you want it to be more in the warmer tone than you obviously want in that bluish family. So that's what will probably happen, because it's ink. You're putting something foreign in your skin. It's going to change color. The sun, and I will get into that in just a second. Just remember that ink spreads over time. And so keeping that in mind, you have more realistic expectations. The aftercare is really important too, because that's why I have makeup on right now, but that's why I want you to show you me. Because I was under, I was outside, but I had something over me. I don't expose my eyebrows to just blatant sun. I always have something on. I always have some kind of brow makeup on, whether it's powder, pencil, brow pen, dip brow, because I want to cover that, protect that. Maybe sunscreen will work. I'm not sure. Sunscreen has, you know, chemicals, so I don't know if that's good with ink, but I always put makeup on. Now, obviously, you're thinking, well, I just got this done, so I don't have to do that. Just do something small. Something, as long as it covers a little bit, right? And a little bit of powder if it's not that old of an ink, because I believe just by doing that will prolong your tattoo ink to just stay really nice, right? Doesn't shift too much. The color doesn't change as fast or as much. So let me segue that into the reason why there's so many great reasons why you want to get it done, is that it helps you to fill in your eyebrows. If you had this done a long time ago, or you had it done and it got even thinner, don't go back and start trying to get it too wide, okay? Because again, your face, skin, everything changes, your expression. You know, one side moves higher, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm so uneven. Your tattoo ink will move where your skin moves. Remember that, right? So you want it a little bit thinner, so that way you have a background. I think having it done is very important for those of you that are going through hair problems, alopecia, you are in recovery through, you know, having chemo done. This is a great way to help you in filling them out. So filling them in. When the tattoo ink fades away, that's okay, because then that gives you a permanent stencil. It makes it so much easier to apply makeup on them, right? Cuts your time in half. So many of us will lose hair even if you don't over tweeze your hair. It just happens as we age. When we're born, we have X amount of follicles, and that's it. It's like eggs for females. You have an X amount, and over time you lose little by little. It's the same with follicles. That's why your eyelashes, you use lash serums to make them grow. They do work. I get asked this all the time if the serums work. Of course they do. I use them on my eyelashes just to make them look a little longer, to get them longer, so it does make them grow. So keep in mind the word grow, right? When your hair is growing, you're not implying you just got more hair. You're saying that it grew in length. That's the same with serums. It makes things get longer. It doesn't add density to your eyebrow hair. I often tell people if that was the case, there wouldn't be any more hair implants, right? So, I mean, serums work in that it can maybe wake up a follicle that's there. It can have a cluster of hair fuzz because we're covered in that to make it longer. It can make some of your short brow hair, maybe cause it to get longer, and then it could be like a comb over. So try that. But just know that you can't get more of follicles. I've already looked into that from a doctor, just in case you guys are wondering. But But before I end this video, again, I just want to say that these models that I showed you earlier were just models that I picked out from the internet. So it's a public, it was a public photograph, but I still want to cover their eyes because I didn't want to, I think I just wanted to protect that part. But I didn't perform those services on those ladies. It's great if you commit to someone really good. It's a life changer, game changer. And I thank you for your time. Thank you for sticking with me here. And again, share this with anyone, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.